My name is Margret Planck. I'm from TIB, the German National Library for Science and Technology, where I'm head of the Competence Center for Non-Textual Materials. Today, I'd like to present the results from a survey on non-textual materials, which I conducted in close cooperation with my colleagues from ICSTI, Curtin and Shelby, Stooksberry. The main goal of this study was to gain a more accurate insight into how major scientific organizations deal with the topic of non-textual materials, such as research data, audiovisual media, 3D graphics and images, and also software. We wanted to know what infrastructures, tools they provide or use, what services, which IDs they use, what teaching and learning materials they provide, and much more. Our motivation for this study was the reproducibility and comprehensibility of science. And what is meant by this is obtaining consistent results using the same data and protocol as the original study. And for us, comprehensibility of science means that someone else understands what the research is about, can reuse it, and can cite it. And for all of this, non-textual materials play a crucial role. We have chosen a quantitative method in the form of a questionnaire, which also contains some free text fields. We focused on the formats of research data, audiovisual media, graphics and images, 3D models, and software. The duration of the survey was 2 months, from August to October 2022, and the total number of questionnaires taken into account were 15. So this survey, of course, doesn't claim to be representative. The participants were 15 representatives of ICSTI member organizations. What is ICSTI? ICSTI is the International Council for Scientific and Technical Information, which was founded in 1984. It is a non-profit membership organization that provides a forum for exchange among national and international organizations that create, disseminate, and use scientific and technical information. ICSTI offers its members virtual and face-to-face events and programs for knowledge transfer, networking, and collaboration. If you'd like to have more information on ICSTI, check out the website, which is ixti.org. The membership organizations are very international. We have organizations from Switzerland, from Germany, from Austria, from the US, from China, from Canada, from Saudi Arabia, from Finland also. So there's a big variety of member organizations. Korea, I forgot Korea. So as you see, it's a wide range of international major organizations in science. The first block of questions addressed the organizations itself. We ask, what are your organization's major functions or activities? Quite clearly, the most frequently mentioned were information management, infrastructure, and research. Then we asked, what is the primary subject focus of your organization? Most of the respondents said that their collections contained resources from many different subjects. Then we asked, what types of digital textual scientific and technical information material does your organization collect or store? The collected textual formats mentioned include journal articles, technical reports, ebooks, government reports, and others such as theses, dissertations, program documents, printed books, clinical vocabularies and value sets, lab notes and notebooks, handwritten manuscripts, newspaper clippings, and digitized archival materials. Then we wanted to know what types of digital non-textual scientific and technical information materials does your organization collect or store. Here we see a wide range of object types in the order of most frequently mentioned. Research data such as measurement data, material samples, structural formulas, simulation data, geospatial data, audiovisual media, patterns, maps, software, posters, 3D models, and others such as oral history, prints and photographs, vocabularies, and related health data standards, as well as born digital publications and data sets from other than research sources. As I said in the beginning, in the study, we will focus on the object types, audiovisual media, images and graphics, research data, software, and 3D objects. The first block of questions is on audiovisual media. First, we asked, does the organization host a repository for audiovisual media? 9 respondents said yes, 3 said no. From the 9 who said yes, 7 said the repository is exclusively to audiovisual media. Is the audiovisual media repository publicly accessible? 3 said yes, it is publicly available, whereas 6 said the repository is only accessible internally. What else is used if the organizations do not have an own repository for audiovisual media? Here, YouTube was mentioned, TikTok, Youku, worldwidescience.org, GStage data, and digital collections, and also collections of DVDs can be accessed locally, was mentioned. Does the organization provide a visual search tool for the audiovisual media repository? Only 1 respondent said yes, we have a visual search tool, which in this case is based on neural networks, deep learning, and visual concept detection. Does the organization provide long-term digital preservation for audio-visual media? Here 4 said yes, we do provide long-term digital preservation, and 5 said no, we do not provide digital preservation for audio-visual media. Regarding the provision of tools and infrastructures for users with disabilities, we find services such as closed captioning or transcripts, alternative text, and text size adjustment. Does the organization provide any of the following training resources in relation to the management of or publication of audiovisual media? Most of the organizations provide written text or guidances, as well as instructional videos as training resources in relation to management or publication of audiovisual media. Does the organization assign persistent identifier to audiovisual media? Here, 7 said no, we do not, and 2 said yes, we do provide a digital persistent identifier. Then we ask which DOI registration service are used to assign digital object identifiers to audiovisual media. In addition to DataCite DOIs, 1 organization uses DOIs from IDA, and none of the organization uses persistent identifiers such as archive or URN. The next block is on the results from images and graphics. Again, does the organization host a repository for images and graphics? 8 of the respondents said they had a repository for images, 7 did not. 5 said it is not exclusively for images and graphics, and 3 said yes, their repository is exclusive for images and graphics. Is the repository for images and graphics publicly accessible? 5 said yes, the repository is publicly available, and 3 said it's not. What else is used if the respondents or the organizations do not have a repository for graphics and images? Here was mentioned YouTube, TikTok, Youku, GStage, Zenodo, Figshare, Wikicommons, and also a collection of analog maps can be accessed locally. Does the organization provide a visual search tool for the images and graphics repository? Here only 1 said yes, but it was not specified what exactly it is. Does the organization provide long-term digital preservation for images and graphics? 6 said yes, we do provide digital preservation for images and graphics, and 2 said no, we do not. Next question was, does the organization provide any of the following infrastructures, tools, or services for users with disabilities? With regard to those services, we see, for example, alternative text descriptions for images. Does the organization provide any of the following training resources in relation to the management or publication of images and graphics? With respect to training materials, again, most answer it with written instructions and written policy guidances. When it comes to the assignment of persistent identifiers, 5 said yes, we assign persistent identifiers to images and graphics, and 3 said no, we don't. And 3 organizations assign a digital object identifier, and we see DataCite registration and also Korea Institute of Science and Technology registrations. And as an alternative, internal identifiers are used. The next block is on the results for research data. Does your organization host a repository for research data? 11 organizations host a repository for research data? 4 do not. Is the repository exclusive to research data? 8 out of the 11 are not exclusively for research data, and 3 of them are. Is the research data repository publicly accessible? 9 respondents said that their repository for research data is open for everyone. 2 said it's not accessible within the organization. Is the research data repository publicly accessible? 9 respondents said that their repository for research data is open for everyone. 2 said it's only accessible within the organization. What else is used for research data if not an own repository is available? Here, the respondents said Zenodo or GitHub, or also the radar service.eu. Does the organization provide long-term digital preservation for research data sets? 10 said yes, we provide long-term digital preservation for the data sets, and 1 said no, we don't. Does your organization provide any of the following tools for users with disabilities? Here we find again the alternative text descriptions and others such as closed captioning, transcripts for audiovisual media, as research data can also be audiovisual media, text-to-speech or screen reader support. The answers concerning training materials this time give a little more variance. Next to written instructions and policy guidances, we have videos, webinars, and multiple session courses, either live or recorded. Does your organization assign persistent identifiers to research data? 9 organizations said yes, we do assign persistent identifiers, and 2 said no, we don't. 7 organizations use a DOI, 5 a data site a DOI, 1 said an ICSTI, and 1 func data identifier, and 1 from Japan Link Center, and 1 Korea Institute of Science and Technology. Does the organization assign any of the following types of persistent identifier to research data sets? Here we find internal, especially internal identifiers together with permalink and epic handles. The next group is on the results of software. Does the organization host a repository for software? After all, 3 of the respondents stated that they have a repository for software, which is only in 1 case exclusive to software, but all 3 of them are publicly available. What else is used? People use GitHub and Zenodo, and also Microsoft Team Server. All 3 of the organizations provide long-term preservation for software, and none of them provide specific tools for the users with disabilities. Training resources provided again include a huge variety. Next to written policy guidances and instructions, we find training sessions and instructional videos. When it comes to identifiers, all 3 organizations which provide a repository for software assigns persistent identifiers and specific data site DOIs. And last but not least, the 3D models. 15 out of 15 said, no, we do not provide a repository for 3D models. Although no repository is available for 3D, some organizations provide training resources such as written policy instructions, written instructions, and multiple session courses for their users. And there's not an alternative as an example for other repositories or publicly available repositories. So challenges, we also ask for challenges regarding non-textual materials. The member organizations or the participating organizations said in general, some indicate that the organizations would like to do more about this topic, but the effort to meet the different demands of the different types of objects is simply too complex and time-consuming. According to our respondents, other challenges are the definition of user requirements, the construction of an ecosystem and cooperation mechanism, including the contributors, users, funders, and administrators, even our commercial partners. Then another challenge is the communication with researchers about the expectations for submitting non-textual materials. The long-term preservation was mentioned, then the resources to support staff, IT, infrastructure, financial resources, and also semantic relations and the visualization of relations between data, text, graphic software, AV, and text was mentioned, and also the clearing of copyright for videos. So this survey conducted primarily provided an indication of in the existing tools, infrastructures, and services of the participating organizations regarding non-textual materials. It appears that research data infrastructures are already, let's say, more or less well established. 75% said the organizations operates its own repository, most of which are publicly available. The vast majority of data sets have a DOI and are archived for the long term, which means research data within our test group is findable and accessible to a certain extent, and it's also citable. Unfortunately, the same does not apply to the software with which data is usually analyzed or collected or generated. Only 3 organizations said they run an own repository for software from which only one is publicly available. Some are using GitHub and Zenodo to store their software, so there is an alternative. In terms of AV media, audiovisual media, just over half have their own repository, but a lot of alternatives are used here, such as YouTube, for example. Some organizations have their own YouTube channel. Unfortunately, YouTube is not made for scientific purposes. It's not a trusted environment. The data is not archived for long term, and it's not easily citable. This means that if a video is important for a study, a persistent identifier is needed, of course. And in addition, the videos on YouTube are also not contextualized. Only one organization uses a visual search tool, which is a pity because there is so much more information in a video than just in the metadata. Only 2 organizations assign digital object identifiers to audiovisual media, which means the rest is just not citable. For 3D models, the situation is even worse. None of the organizations has an answer for this. It seems there is either no awareness to make 3D models available and citable for the long term, or there's just not enough resources. 3D models in our test group are neither findable nor accessible, reusable, interoperable, or citable. The best option would, of course, be to share the non-textual objects in a trusted repository that assigns digital object identifiers or other persistent identifiers, describe them with sufficient metadata, and provide an open license, such as the Creative Commons license, and then interlink the objects via persistent identifiers so that they are findable, accessible, citable, and reusable for the long term. Thank you. We will now analyze the data in more depth to draw further conclusions, but we would like to thank the many colleagues who took the time to complete the questionnaire and providing us with valuable information.